When the American West was still wild, they were its master. On the back of the horse, they swept across the plains. At a river called the Little Bighorn, under a warrior called Crazy Horse, they humbled a nation and won the greatest victory in the wars for the West. On a spring morning in 1870, a Sioux warrior speaks of the wolf that stalks his sleep. A good sign for a raid. Scouts have spotted a herd of ponies one day's walk from the village. They belong to a war party of their bitter enemy, the Crow. On the wide open plains, power rides with the horse and the tribe that owns the most. In battle, this small band is no match for a Crow war party. Today, their weapons will not be axe or arrow, but the buffalo hide rope and stealth. The warrior Curly Hair is armed with just a stick, a record of courage marked by hawk's feathers and strips of ermine. This day he hopes to capture more than horses. He is after glory. The Crow are caught off guard, and Curly Hair seizes the best horse. Suddenly he turns back for a greater prize. By touching an armed enemy with his coup stick, he will disgrace the Crow and honor himself, if he survives. He has risked death and humbled his foe. Today on his coup stick, he will add one more honor. About 30 years earlier, the youngest Sioux warrior came into his tribe. Like every child, he was given a sacred pouch to protect him. Inside, a piece of his umbilical cord. In boyhood, his hair would grow light and wavy, and he would gain the name Curly Hair. Not till he proved his bravery would he earn his father's name, Tashunka Witko, Crazy Horse. The tribe of Curly Hair was called the Lakota, one of 3 large tribes that made up the great nation of the Sioux. Nearly 200 years earlier, stronger tribes forced the Sioux from the lands they farmed near the Great Lakes. With only dogs as pack animals, the Sioux moved west, toward the flat land where great horned beasts were fabled to roam. When they reached these great plains, the Sioux found that the fables were true. The trail of the buffalo became the way of the Sioux. For most of the year, in bands a few hundred strong, they followed the herds. Their way of life now depended on the buffalo, and that other great animal of the plains, the horse. Astride the animal's bare back, a Sioux warrior could hunt farther and faster than ever. At an early age, Curly Hair learned to shoot with iron-tipped arrows. Everything else was trial and error. The tribe's survival depended on the warrior's skill with the bow. Silent and quick and deadly at 100 yards. Every scrap of the buffalo was used for drinking horns, for shields and teepees, for saddles on long journeys. The hooves became toys to teach children the ways of hunting and fighting. The hides were dried for robes, scraped for rawhide, tanned for shirts and moccasins. No war party would set out without several pair for each man. A time of making moccasins meant a time for war. The sinews of the buffalo stitched their moccasins and strung their bows. The bows brought down the buffalo. The cycle began anew. No creature was so revered as the buffalo. After it was killed, it was celebrated. From the buffalo, from the earth, warriors drew strength. In visions of an animal, wolf, crow, bear, they sought guidance. In dreams of nature, snow, thunder, lightning, they found inspiration. In the world of visions, wolves spoke, thunder sang, and horses rode on clouds. In his 13th year, Curly Hair was sent off alone to seek his vision, his own guidance on the path of a warrior. He lay in a holy place, staring into the clouds and the stars. Sharp stones kept him awake. After 3 dreamless days, he felt unworthy of a vision and gave up his vigil. Only then, in his weakness, did it come. A horse floated toward him. On its back rode a warrior. The man rode through a flight of arrows, but they failed to strike him. A storm engulfed him. Lightning flashed across his face, and white spots covered his body. A hawk flew past the warrior's head, and the boy awoke. Much later, his father interpreted the vision. The power of lightning and the guidance of the hawk would shield him from the weapons of his enemies. All his life, he would fight protected by the medicine of his vision. The years pass, and the power of Curly Hair's medicine is put to the test. A Sioux elder has died. To end their suffering, the tribe must take an enemy's soul. Now is the time of making moccasins, of going to war. Not for horses, but scalps. Like the other warriors, Curly Hair paints his face in the symbols of the spirit world, another shield in the battle ahead. To his horse, each man ties a small pouch, his wotawe, or protection. Then the warriors gather their weapons, quivers of newly made arrows, lances, some decorated with a bear's paw to invoke the beast's power. They wear their finest adornment, breastplates made of shells, bear claw necklaces. In splendid bonnets of eagle feathers, they announce their tally of coups counted and scalps taken. They hope for victory, but dress to meet death. Yet one warrior is garbed in the plainest of clothing. Wrapped in the protection of his vision, he scorns finery and death. Leaving the village, the Sioux travel the sacred Red Road, the path of war. Days later, the Sioux war party reaches the land of the Arapaho. Tomorrow they will attack. Tonight they pass the war pipe, summoning a blessing from Wakantanka, the Great Spirit. The moment is solemn. To take a scalp is to take a soul. Only the bravest among them will try, and the bravest is Curly Hair. In the hills near the Arapaho camp, the Sioux stumble upon their foe. The weapon they counted on, surprise, is lost. The raid turns into a standoff. Only reckless bravery will win what they have come for. Only one is so recklessly brave, Curly Hair. In the scalp lives the dead man's spirit. Now it belongs to Curly Hair. For this boldest of dares, Curly Hair earns his father's name, Tashunkawitko, Crazy Horse. So esteemed is he that the tribe's warrior societies vie for his comradeship. Crazy Horse joins one of the greatest, the Crow owners. Under their magic, his arrows would fly as swift and straight as the crow itself. As a talisman, he carries a rawhide case containing the skin and feathers of a crow to be purified over a sagebrush fire. Crazy Horse is made a chief, then a lance bearer. With that title comes the greatest honor and the greatest challenge. To fight tethered to a lance driven into the earth. A sign that he will not retreat, however fierce the enemy. Crazy Horse now makes his stand against the worst enemy he will know. By the 1870s, a new foe had entered the land of the Sioux, with their own warriors to protect them. Sapa, the Black Hills, a place of vision sacred to the Sioux, white men found something more sacred: gold. Railroads crossed the hunting grounds Crazy Horse had ridden all his life. Wherever the iron horse passed, the buffalo fell. Shot for their hides, the rest was left to rot. The worst threat came in the wagons. They brought an alien notion that land could be owned. One voice answered for the Sioux, the voice of Crazy Horse. One does not sell the earth upon which the people walk. In the summer of 1876, Crazy Horse and the great chief Sitting Bull led an army of warriors to the Valley of the Greasy Grass, beside the river the whites call the Little Bighorn. On the afternoon of June 25th, scouts from the Sioux's old enemy, the Crow, guide 264 bluecoats toward the Little Bighorn, under the long-hair colonel called Custer. The plains echo with the rumble of 1,000 Sioux horses. This day, Crazy Horse wears his painted thunderbolt and his single hawk's feather, the protection of his boyhood vision. Since his childhood, the Sioux have taken up the white man's guns. But once more, their greatest weapon is cunning. George Armstrong Custer has brashly ridden into a trap. The Sioux would recall that the battle did not last long enough to light a pipe. Not one of Custer's men was left alive. Crazy Horse had known no victory like it. He would not know another. Within a year, Crazy Horse's world collapses around him. In a feud over a woman, he is shot in the face. Disgraced, he loses the right to wear the hair-fringed shirt of a tribal leader. His brother is shot dead by miners. His newborn daughter dies from a strange new disease, cholera. By winter, his people are weakened by hunger and exhausted by fighting. On September 4th, 1877, a year after the Battle of the Little Bighorn, Crazy Horse walks through the gate of Fort Robinson, Nebraska. He is ready to lead his band onto the reservation. Instead, he is led into the guardhouse. A little after 6, Crazy Horse fights his last battle. He is stabbed in the back with a bayonet and bleeds to death. He is 36 years old. Much time would pass before white men would recall, with honor, the horse soldiers of the plains and the one named Crazy Horse.